let 3 TCU horn frogs into my office. We have a cap of how many Aggies we're able to bring in. First off, thanks for coming out. Welcome. And would you please join me in thanking Ernest and Dairy Queen for letting us be here today. Thank you. So I've eaten a lot of small dip cones at this location since I live around the corner, and it's been funny. Everybody keeps asking me, like, why are you doing this at DQ's, right? And one reporter was like, is there some connection? And I'm like, there's a Dairy Queen in every county, basically. And DC2DQ sounds really good too. A couple of housekeeping notes. We have a sign-in sheet going around somewhere. Please sign in. It's back here in the back because we want to be able to keep in touch with you. The reality is as we get closer to November, I'm restricted on my ability to contact y'all about what's already going on in Washington. But if you sign up, we're able to talk to you directly. Because look, we still have a month's worth of legislation to take care of in September. So we want to be able to continue to dialogue with y'all. How many of y'all Snapchat? You? All right. No? Okay. Well, forget that because we've been working on getting a Snapchat filter that says DC2DQ, and we have some technical issues right now. So maybe later on in the trip, we'll be able to y'all be able to see that on Snapchat. So it's crazy to think we did this a year ago, Stubby, right? Almost a year ago, where we did the first DC2DQ. We're hitting 25 cities in 5 days. And y'all know the district. It goes from San Antonio to El Paso down to Eagle Pass, 29 counties, 2 time zones. It takes 10.5 hours to drive 80 miles an hour from one corner to the other. True story. And 80 is the speed limit in 75% of the district. I've learned recently it's not the speed limit in all of Texas. So thank God I have somebody else driving this trip. I ran for Congress for 2 reasons. Y'all know this. Be a leader on national security and the gold standard when it comes to constituent relations. And for me, the gold standard in constituent relations, we're able to do that because I have a great team. And I'm going to take a second to introduce some of the folks on the team. Stony Burke, right here with the beard, is my chief of staff. Stoney is the one that ruined my life by suggesting I run for Congress. And I ruined his life by making him my chief of staff. And I've known Stoney since he was 14 years old. So it's great having a friend, someone I trust, as a partner in crime on this endeavor. Daniel Meza, where's Daniel? Daniel Meza right here is my district director. He runs all the operations here in Texas. And so when it comes to constituent relations, this is his #1 issue, and he's helped assemble and run a very great team that does that. John Arnold here to my left, 9.5-year Army veteran. Yeah, thank you for your service, John. He's my stunt double as well. Yeah, exactly. And John handles all of our veterans and military affairs issues. So if you have a specific VA issue, let John know, okay? And we're proud. Last year, 242 veterans cases we were able to clear out. One of the things that your congressman does is help you battle the bureaucracy, and for people that can't battle it themselves. And so we had 242 veterans that were having problems with the VA, and that's just in 2015. We were able to sort out their cases, and a lot of that is because of this guy right here. He's a great part of our team. He does so much for our community. He does so much for our veterans community, and it's great having you. Thank John. John Arnold. Tyler Lowe is our newest addition. Spent time here in San Antonio, got his law degree here. He was the counsel for the Homeland Security Committee up in DC for about a year, is that right? A year and a half. And now it's great to have him here as Daniel's deputy. He understands Homeland Security, and it's great having someone that also knows San Antonio. Jenny Tavares, she's one of our field reps from Fort Stockton, Texas. you know, went to school at Sul Ross, graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. We let a few in. And she is our videographer extraordinaire as well, along with helping folks in all 29 of these counties. Daniel, who else have I missed? Henry Huera, where are you, Henry? Henry's in the back, of course, probably. Henry's another one of our field reps that are helping y'all, and these are the people that are making things happen. And Jessica Guerra is a San Antonio native. Yeah, get it up. Someone, you hear that little kid scream up here for you? And Jessica has been in our DC office from the start. So if y'all were up for the inauguration or the swearing-in ceremony, Jessica had to handle 450 people in the office by herself. So we decided to keep her around. She handles a lot of our agriculture issues. She handles a lot of our education issues. And she's now in the district office for the remainder of the summer. These are the people that are able to help provide the services that this district needs and to provide a level of service that we haven't seen. Can I see Jeffries, can I see the list? So one of, listen, y'all have seen, if you haven't, some of my frustrations with Washington. I ran for Congress because when I was in the CIA, I had to brief members of Congress along with collecting intelligence, right? I was the guy in the back alleys at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was shocked by the caliber of our elected officials. And so my mama, who's here, there's my mom, Mary Alice Hurd, my dad in the back, wave your hand, Dad. My mama used to always say, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And so I decided to leave Afghanistan and move to Helotes, Texas, and run for Congress. Right? I grew up in Leon Valley, and I always say, growing up in Leon Valley, there's 2 places I never thought I'd live: Afghanistan and Helotes. And so it's great being here. It's great representing y'all. And I did this because I was frustrated with what was going on in Washington. And it's been great being able to use my background and experience on issues of national security. The latest one, the servers and the emails of the former Secretary of State. I don't want to get too political here, but the reality is this: many of y'all have served in the military, in the federal government. Many of y'all have clearances, and if one of us would have done what had happened, we would not be here. We would be in jail, right? It would have been your last day at work, absolutely. And my concern is we're creating a culture where it says it's okay to not protect our secrets in the national security apparatus. That's unacceptable. With the number of threats that we're facing, we cannot let a culture like that develop. Right? Look at the hacking of the Democratic National Committee. That is unacceptable. We should not be surprised that our adversaries are trying to do that. It happened to Mitt Romney, I believe, last cycle. And again, this is one of those cases where the federal government
You're not allowed to.
needs to attribute who the attack was. A lot of folks in industry that follow these issues believe it were the Russians. All right? And if it's the Russians, we should realize the Russians are our adversaries, not our friends. Right? And we need to take this seriously. And if we're concerned about the information in our political parties getting stolen, let me tell you, the old infrastructure within the federal government is scary. The lack of protection around some of y'all's data that's held by the federal government is scary. This is a real issue. And the great thing is here in San Antonio, we're leading on the issue of cybersecurity. San Antonio really is becoming Cybersecurity City USA. We have more cybersecurity professionals in San Antonio than anywhere in the country except for the National Capital Region. And the National Capital Region includes NSA, which is in Maryland, the CIA, which is in Virginia, the Pentagon, also which is in Virginia, and DHS, which is in Washington, D.C. San Antonio is really leading on this issue, and we must. I had a hearing. I've learned that the oversight role of Congress is very important. And the responsibility of us to shine the light on what's really going on in the executive branch and to make sure that they're following the laws that the legislative branch passes. I chair a subcommittee on information technology, and we give out grades to agencies on how good their digital infrastructure is, right? It's a rule called FITARA. It passed a couple of years ago, and we're trying to implement it. Social Security Administration got a pretty bad grade. We had the Chief Information Security Officer in front of our hearing, and the Department of Homeland Security had done a test of the Social Security Administration's network. It's called a technical vulnerability assessment. They found thousands of vulnerabilities. And not all vulnerabilities are equal, but you usually start with what's called your priority vulnerabilities, right? So I asked the Chief Information Security Officer of the Social Security Administration, how many were priority vulnerabilities? By the way, the test had been done 9 months prior to the hearing. She didn't know the answer to that. I said, okay, how many of them have been fixed? Didn't know the answer to that. I said, well, what are you doing to fix, how are you going to address these problems? And her answer was many different things. I lost it. I lost it on many different things for those non-technical people is not a technical answer. All right? The Social Security Administration has information on every American. The Social Security information, fraud, our seniors, right, that are on Social Security are generally targeted by outside forces for fraud. And you had the person that is responsible for defending that information not knowing what's going on. That's the kind of stuff, to me, that is outrageous, right? And it's great being in a position to do something about it. Now, it's also great being in a position to help the city of San Antonio. Y'all know about the UNESCO World Heritage designation of the missions. Big deal. First time in Texas. The economic development and the economic impact it's going to have on San Antonio is huge. Right? But this has been 20 years in the making. City of San Antonio, the county, worked together and they said, hey, we have to do this mission reach. We have to connect the missions together in order to make sure we get to a standard to get this UNESCO designation. This happened, what, 10, 12 years ago, Stoney? And the Army Corps of Engineers said, listen, this is a project, it's a drainage project. We're going to use federal funds for this. But y'all go ahead and pay for it, and we'll pay you back. Yeah, now, I wasn't involved in that initial conversation. I probably would have given a healthy dose of skepticism. But the project went through. The county spent $60 million to do a project that was supposed to be ultimately reimbursed by the federal government. That money has not been reimbursed until 2 weeks ago. Now, we only got $5 million of that reimbursement, right? But we're going to get another $5 million next year. But making sure, and that money is going to go back into infrastructure projects here in San Antonio. This hadn't been done, but we were able to get involved. We were able to work with Henry Cuellar. A lot of people think of Henry Cuellar as Laredo's congressman, but he represents parts of San Antonio, and he does a lot for the city of San Antonio, and doesn't get credit for all that he does for our city. So we work together in order to get this reimbursement. Mitchell Lake. Who knows what Mitchell Lake is? All right. Mitchell Lake is a property that SAWS uses to make sure we have water. EPA was trying to come in, put all these new rules and regulations on it. We were able to say, hey, pump the brakes, time out. That's not going to happen. It's important for SAWS. It's important for our city. All right? The federal courthouse. The federal courthouse, you had judges on elevators with Mexican criminal gangs, right? The scary ones. That's unacceptable, all right? And so we were able, in order to get a new federal courthouse, which is a big deal, and it's actually going to have an impact because we're going to be able to move some of the federal properties around the Alamo to this new courthouse in order to put the artifacts that the singer, I'm drawing a blank here, Phil Collins We're going to be able to display Phil Collins at that location. So the visitor experience at the Alamo is going to be huge. These are some of the kinds of projects that we're able to work on behalf of San Antonio. So we have legislation. Listen, Military City USA, the number of veterans that retire here, we passed a bill that making sure that we're providing the right kind of support for PTSD. We're losing 22 veterans a day to PTSD, suicides, right? And some of the tools that our veterans can be using in order to deal with PTSD, we were able to ensure that VA can offer those services now and work with folks locally. Big deal, right? It's huge for the city of San Antonio. It's huge for our veteran population. I had the honor to serve alongside our men and women in the military when I was in Pakistan and Afghanistan. I know the sacrifices they made. I know the sacrifices the families made, and we got to make sure that we continue to honor those commitments and take care of them after they've left military service. And I'll end with this one. So the other thing, when it comes to healthcare, when our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines leave DOD, they're told to print out their electronic health record and walk it to a VA clinic. It's 2016. We should be able to push a button and that stuff gets transferred, right? The VA and DOD are the two largest healthcare providers in the world. They should be able to talk. Well, in 2011, they said, guys, we really should sort this out. Let's have an integrated record. 5 years later, $500 billion later, they threw up their hands and said, hey, this is too hard. Let's go back to let's go back to having our own independent records. Excuse me? Right? Y'all just spent $500 billion and you're saying my bad? And nobody's getting fired. Nobody is and so when we heard this, we had a hearing and I said, okay, great. I want a list of everybody who was on this project from 2011 until it was over. Not only the companies, the individuals. Because once I get that list, I'm going to compare that list to the people that are working on the projects now, and there better not be overlap. Because imagine in y'all's businesses, in y'all's lives, if you ran over, it took you 5 years to do a project that should have been done in a year and a half, and you went $500 billion over, what would happen to you? You'd get fired, right? It's unacceptable. The first hearing I was in Congress, GAO, the Government Accounting Office, they do a high-risk report. Every year they produce a list of projects over $1 billion that are having a problem. Okay, $1 billion is the cutoff? It seems a little high, but okay, whatever, we'll get into it. Since I'm the junior guy on the committee, I usually ask questions second to last. And it gets to me, and I asked the head of GAO, who's a great man. I said, how long have you been with GAO? He said, 40 years. That's a long time. I said, thank you, sir, for your 40 years of service. In your 40 years of service, have you ever heard of someone getting fired for a cost or a time overrun? And he strokes his beard for about 12, 13 seconds. And he goes, Congressman, I can't recall, but I'm sure somebody was putting hot water. I wish that was a joke, but it was true, right? And so my time was even more egregious. As my time runs out, we're leaving, the hearing's over, I'm walking out. And I had members of my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, pat me on the back. They're like, Hurd, great question, man, great question, great questioning. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I the first dude to ever ask if anybody was fired for a cost or a time overrun? Right? That's why we need people with experience on how to get things done, experience in business, be up there. So I used to start my talks by saying, I don't know if I should thank y'all or curse you out for sending me to Washington, D.C. But I'm going to thank you because it really is an honor to be up in Washington working on y'all's behalf, working on the behalf of my hometown. So I'm going to stop there and then take a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
Zika virus, what is Congress going to do
Sure.
to really impact change?
Sure.
And how we can help you?
Sure. The question is on Zika virus. And this is one of those examples of how politics gets in the way of good policy. The House and the Senate had agreed to a deal of $1.1 billion for Zika. The scary thing about Zika is this. It's one of the first diseases we've seen that goes back and forth between insects and people. Okay? And here in San Antonio, I believe we have 5 cases of Zika. All of them have been contracted overseas, and I think we had 1 case, and I shouldn't be quoting this, I'm not completely sure. It was sexually transmitted here, one case. The mosquito that is capable of transmitting Zika exists in South Texas. That mosquito generally lives within 150 yards of where it's born. So that's why it's important to do mosquito eradication. So if somebody has the virus, you got to go to their office, you got to go to their home, and eradicate the mosquitoes in a 200-yard area. Okay. And the people that do it are cities and counties. Right? They're the pointy end of the spear when it comes to Zika. So some of the federal funds that they have access to, they're not able to buy the insecticide to kill the mosquito. Mosquito eradication is important to this, but you're not going to give the people the ability to buy that. Right? So we're working on it. There was $50 million that the states had available in order to fight for Zika. That deadline was the 15th of last month for those cities and counties to apply for that fund. So that's existing funds available. And no cities and counties, and I've talked to the ones in our district, are worried about getting more funding. But Congress already acted. $1.1 billion, we had an agreement, but Democrats in the Senate are holding it up. They're saying it's not enough. And so they're preventing the $1.1 billion that's going to be used for research, extra vaccine research. They're preventing that from being released. That's just crazy to me. And the reason that's happening is because we're 92 days away from an election. So
outreach on the ground, give people an education.
Look, outreach on the ground is important. We can find out the senators that are holding this up. And again, it's not our state senator, it's not our senators from Texas that are holding this up. You know, John Cornyn has been intimately involved in making sure this funding is getting there. But this is a real problem, and we have to get in front of it. And again, we have people that have it here, and I will say this. I've met with the city officials, I met with the county officials that are involved in the prevention of this, and they're on top of it. I've been impressed with our health officials that are involved in this effort, and so they're on top. And again, this is something that we're dealing with in 29 counties. So I think at the end we're going to get it done. Yes, sir.
Do you really think you can eradicate Zika, and whatever happens to that genetically modified mosquito that's carrying it?
Well, look, you can prevent it, right? So are we going to stop Zika in the world? It's going to be really hard, right? We're still dealing with the plague, right? The plague literally still exists.
I guess my question was before.
Yeah, no, look, but we should be prepared to defend ourselves, right? And we should make sure we have all the tools in advance so that we're ready for this initiative. And we can, because look, the vaccine research, the reality is we believe, and I use the royal we, folks that are involved in research on Zika, that the Zika virus can last for 9 months in someone. We're not like 100% sure on that. So there needs to be continued research. There are some vaccines that we've seen working in other areas that we need to get more access to it. And then once we do find a vaccine, making sure we get it out to places. Yes, sir.
I'm a physician, and the Texas Medical Association talks with us on a regular basis about the importance of funding to fight the Zika problem. This is the biggest problem in the United States. We've had it many years. So when I talk with Democrats, they blame it on the Republicans that it didn't get passed. And when I talk with the Republicans, they blame it on the Democrats. Bottom line is, there's going to be a lot of people with birth defects. So what it amounts to is it didn't get done. And so I don't know who to blame, but I know it didn't get done, and lots of people are going to suffer because it didn't get done.
Yeah. There's $1.1 billion on the table that can go to the president today.
The president says that the Republicans attach too many strings and they want to reverse too many of its policies that are unrelated.
Yeah.
So it appears to me both sides are playing games, and I just wanted to put it out
No,
there.
look,
I think
that's
what's
the other
happening.
side.
People are going to suffer.
And on that case, I would love to have someone explain to me what those riders are, because the next point they never do is say, what are those riders that are so offensive that is preventing them from being engaged? And I haven't seen them, and you know, if they are there, we should work to get this done, because it is the potential of being a serious national crisis.
Very
And we need to get in front of it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a few things. I'm old enough to have one of these, so this is a very basic level. Can you get the Social Security number off the Social Security card? Because I think if I held this up, the guy back there could read it and steal my identity. Number two is the Social Security, because I work with it. It's both directions, and these and me are paying money because it takes a year or more to medically discharge a soldier, because there is no way to get the information back and forth, and they have to go both directions. So they have to be evaluated by the Social Security or the VA and the military, back and forth, to carry paper records or a disc rather than sharing that information. And every day you pay for that kind of thing.
The amount of duplication that goes on when it comes to taking care of our veterans, one, makes it more expensive, and two, increases the amount of time it takes to do things.
And some of them will suicide during that time.
Absolutely. So one of the issues that we try to do to deal with the long wait periods, right? It's called a choice card, and the choice card is not perfect. It's not perfect. But if a veteran has an appointment more than 30 days, or they're 40 miles away from the VA clinic where they need to go, they can go on the local economy and go to a local practitioner. Now, early on in this process, the VA, you would go to a local person that was willing to provide it, and the VA wasn't paying their bills. All right? TriWest, which is the company that's administering this, is working to decrease that amount of time, and we're seeing more providers getting involved in this process. Right? Little things, and I deal with this with my veterans that live in between El Paso and San Antonio. They were having to find a ride for 3 hours to come get blood drawn, or to do some basic tests that you can do anywhere. So we've been working, we have a pilot program going on in Uvalde, where our veterans can get some of those basic care done in Uvalde, and that gets sent to the VA, so that our veteran doesn't have to spend 12 hours sitting at Audie Murphy, so getting their basics done in the morning, and then maybe have their appointment later in the afternoon. So one of the things, and this is where John spends a lot of time on, we try to fix that problem for the individual, and if we fix it for the individual, then we're going to figure out ways to do it on the macro level. Because if one person's having this problem, then thousands of people are having this problem. And guess what? If we have all the information in one place, we're going to be able to provide better care. Right? We're going to be able to provide better care for our veterans. And honestly, we're going to be able to provide better care for everyone if we have this true interoperability. It's 2016. We should be able to do this. Doctor, yes?
Yeah, I'm a psychologist at Kerrville State Hospital, and one of the things that's kind of embarrassing for Texas is we're 49th on mental illness funding and things. I'm thinking that we have, just curious on your end on sort of like ways that for the CDC, NIH, and IMH for sort of unlocking research funding. We have lots of professionals in San Antonio that are able to do research.
Make sure we have your contact information. There's this thing called the 21st Century Cures.
Yeah.
The highest funding ever for NIH, right? And it's called 21st Century Cures. It's like saying, hey, we should be able to cure some of these things that we deal with. That's one. It also addresses PTSD as well. And then the Clay Hunt a Suicide Prevention Act, which was passed early in the year, is another act that making sure that the VA is able to interact with other folks outside the VA system to get some of that help. It also deals with things like DoD is doing a pretty good job of helping their soldiers with PTSD. They get a mix of, there's no solution, there's no one antidote to PTSD. And so they get a mix of medicine, treatments together, but when that soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine leaves DoD and they go to VA, some of those same tools are not available to them through the VA. They can't use some of the same doctors that they've developed trust with, right? It's those kind of things that are crazy, and that's why it requires us to have elected officials that are willing to get down into the weeds on these things. It takes knowing people like y'all that deal with this issue every single day to help inform me on these issues. And that's one of the reasons why we come out here and do these kinds of things, is to hear from y'all about what y'all care about. But also, I gain more out of these interactions because I know key people to go to and say, hey, help us understand this. Break this down for John and Daniel so that we can figure out how to deal with that. So thank you, and make sure we have your contact information. And I'm going to end with this and stay around to answer some of the private questions y'all may have. Reach out to y'all's team. Washington, DC is a service, right? And representing a 50-50 district, I learned very quickly that no matter what I do, there's going to be 50% of the district that's upset with me. I'm okay, I'm tough, I can handle that. Now, my dear mother, when nasty ads are going to be run on television against me, my dad's already on cooker duty to make sure to change that because she will not react as diplomatically as I would. Ask any of my brother's coaches from middle school how she dealt with him. And I've been critical of the organization I'm now a member of. Right? And one day I was supposed to give a tour of the Capitol, and I had never given a tour of the Capitol. And I thought this could be a pretty crummy tour if I don't know where to show people, right? So I called the Capitol Visitor Center. I said, hey, can you send someone over to me and just do me a quick 1-hour tour, highlights of the Capitol, so I know what to point out and say what's happening, right? So the Capitol Visitor Center sent a young lady over, 67 years old. She had been giving tours of the Capitol for 17 years. And at the end of the tour, she had me standing tall. And my chest was out. Right? And she had taught me I was one of 20,000 people that have ever served in Congress. That's a freshman class at Texas A&M University or University of Texas. She showed me that I was connected to people like Sam Houston and Abraham Lincoln. And that I was part of an organization for 240 years has been exporting democracy around the world. Now, Congress has a long way to go preparing our trust with the American people. But know this, some things are getting done. The SGR fix. The doctors in the room know what this is. We're actually bad at naming some stuff. We should call some of these things, we should have called this the Increasing Seniors Access to Good Doctors while Shaving $5 trillion off the national debt over 15 years. Because that's what it did. It's the first time there was a change to one of our entitlement programs in 20 years. And it was a bipartisan fashion. We funded the Highway Trust Fund, the largest funding in 2 decades. This was done on this Congress. Lifting the ban on exporting crude. That's a big deal. I represent a third of the Eagle Ford, half the Permian Basin. Not only is this a good thing for jobs, Eastern Europe wants to buy energy from us, not Russia. Our energy policy is a tool of our foreign policy. And if we want to put Vladimir Putin in a box, we do it with our energy policy. That happened here. Every Student Succeeds Act. Everyone in here who has kids, has grandkids, or involved in education should know about this. It's a big deal. It basically got rid of No Child Left Behind, which Republicans and Democrats said that it had evolved into something that wasn't helpful. We no longer have a one-size-fits-all solution to education. Now, my fear is that as these states right now are in the implementation, that we're going to have a 50-size-fits-all. That's not the idea. The idea is to have thousands of different ways to educate our kids. Because what we need to do here in Helotes is very different than what we need in El Paso and along the border or in Los Angeles. But guess what? Y'all are the ones that best figure out how to educate your kids, as the parents, as superintendents, as teachers. Right? We did that this year in Congress. It's a big deal. Education is important. And you know what? I've crisscrossed this district dozens of times. And everybody tells me I'm worried about the direction of our country. And I appreciate that. I understand that. People have been spending a lot of money to make sure their kids go to school, and they want to make sure they have a good paying job when they get out. People have put a lot of money away and want to make sure, is this going to be enough for me to survive on retirement? Some people are concerned about going into a mall or a grocery store because there may be an act of terrorism that incident. Right? I get that, I understand that. But I also believe, and I've seen hardworking folks like y'all that care about this country, and we're going to make sure that we say the greatest country on the planet. I was warned, I was in Del Rio a couple of days ago at a health fair. And it's Title I. This is a very poor region. I talked to 50 girls, 7th grade to 1st grade. And I asked each one of them, what's your favorite class? All but 3 said math and science.
Wow.
Exactly. But we got to make sure they keep it that way, all right? And so I tell them the story about how when I was in the CIA, and the best CIA officers I had in the Middle East were women, right? The person that got me excited about computer science was a female engineer at Southwest Research Institute. Right? We got to make sure we continue to do that, because that's the future of our country. And we can, right? But it's hard. It's not easy. Right? I always say, if this was easy, everybody would do it. But it is an honor and a privilege to represent these 29 counties and to represent y'all. So thanks for coming out here and showing your support. If you have questions, we're going to stay a little while longer before we have to get on Highway 90 down to Castroville, Hondo, and where we ended tonight? Somerset. So God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Yeah, oh, and by the way, if you haven't, buy a dilly bar. Thank our officer that's coming out here and taking care of us. Gentlemen, thank y'all so much for what you do. They have a really hard job. They're keeping us safe. So make sure you get a belt buster or a dip cone before you leave.